Hey everybody, this is Dre from Otaku Gaming here today. What up, senpais? It's Dre here with Yokuso Otaku. Yokuso Otaku's Dre here. Yokuso Otaku's, today we're going to be checking out 2024 is over, and I can say for once that this year was absolutely awesome as far as anime gaming went. I truly think that some of the stuff that came out this year is very memorable and games that I am going to love for a very long time. And so I want to recap this year by going over some of my favorite games. So let's jump on into it. First up on the list is Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, an absolutely exciting JRPG, and this one absolutely has to be one of my favorite of all time. We got recurring character Kiryu back up in the saddle, as well as Ichiban, one of my favorite new protagonists in any JRPG. This game holds no bar to nothing. I mean, this game's, it's got infinite mini games, it's got tons of fun stuff to do, the tone is just right, the pacing was absolutely excellent. I really can't say enough good things about the game. I did a live stream you guys can check out on my page, and it was just all fun. The whole thing was just complete fun. I don't think I've had fun like that in a long time. It's probably some of the most fun that I had all year, and there is some absolutely banger stuff this year. I never did a full review of the game, but it pretty much has everything that you'd want. It's got great music, it's got a great story, it's got wildly memorable characters. Like I said before, the pacing is outstanding. You can take as long as you want, you can rip through the story like you want, there's tons of side missions, there's great crafting, there's mini games that could be standalone games on their own. I'm looking at you, Animal Crossing mini game. I think I spent like 150 hours in it. It was literally so much fun. I'm not really into the achievement hunting stuff, but if there was a game I platinumed, it was this game. And it was just, every minute was so fun. It really was just fun, epitomized in a JRPG. I know there's people out there that don't really love this series, and they don't like this game and the change to the turn-based combat and stuff that they've had starting at the game before it, but it is so good. It's so good, and true Yakuza fans, longtime Yakuza fans, I think most of us are just absolutely hyped for everything that's going on with the franchise right now. It's been so good, and in 2025 we'll get to return, and we'll get to play as our boy Majima, the eye patch pirate up in Hawaii, and I'm super stoked for that. But it was a great year just because of this game alone, and it's the first one that I have to mention because it came out very early in the year. If you haven't played this one yet, you're missing out. You're absolutely missing out. Play the first one first, Like a Dragon, and then jump into this one because it's all good. Number 2 on our list is Persona 3 Reload. Now, Persona 3 is not new, but the Reload is like a whole new version of this game. They've remade it from the ground up, and they've kept all the things that we love. It's got our social links, it's got our characters, it's got the great story, probably most people's or a lot of people's favorite story of the new Persona series. They made the dungeon, Tartarus used to be such a pain in the butt, they've made it so much better. And yeah, it's a really exciting game. Persona 3 was originally, a really good game as it was, but they've taken it, they've enhanced it, they've made this probably the best version that you could have of this game. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just really great. It's really fun, and it's memorable. It's another one of those really memorable games, but if you played it before, then you're gonna know. And there's some gripes about the DLC stuff. I know that's a controversial thing that people talk about, but personally, I'm okay with it. Atlas is gonna be Atlas, and we just got to get used to that from this point forward. But they are putting out some excellent stuff with all the money that they're getting from us. And it's definitely refreshing for them to go back in the series. But you know what I really want to see is, let's see Persona 1 and the 2 games both remade next. Because we got to get our Persona 2. That would literally, if they dropped that in 2025, it would blow my mind. I'd be so hype about it. But the fact that we got this in 2024 was a great deal. Shin Megami Tensei 5 returned with Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. Now, a lot of people aren't really so hype on them selling us the same game over and over again, but I do think that Vengeance is absolutely worthwhile to have came out. It is a huge enhancement to SMT5. and having it off of the Switch and on the PC and bigger boy consoles is definitely a huge highlight for this one. Most of the extra stuff is absolutely fantastic. I think a lot of people would say that the extra additions that they've added in are completely good all around across the board. There's more to do, more to see, way better graphics. It was like replaying the game again, and holy cow, the new storyline that they've added in is aces. They did such a good job with the secondary storyline that you can play in the Vengence version of the game. I love everything about it. It's definitely the way to play SMT5, and it's kind of a shame they didn't just release it like this from the get-go, because it's so much better. I will never play the vanilla version of SMT5 ever again. Taken aside from the JRPGs, the next one on the list is Cornucopia. Cornucopia is on this list because it actually has quite a bit of Japanese stuff in it, a shocking amount, really. It is a farming simulator, and you do all your basic farm stuff, but everything about this game seems to just be done right, and the devs are in active development on it. They're continuing to add more features and new updates. In fact, they just recently did this big holiday update that they dropped on, and it's a ton of fun. There's a lot of really, really great mechanics in this one that makes it stand out on its own. It has memorable characters. I'd actually say it's probably one of my favorite newest farming simulators that's come out since Stardew Valley, which is a huge compliment to the game. It looks a little 2D, 3D-ish, which is actually well received by me, and it has all the functions in a farming and simulating game that you'd want. There's fishing, there's upgrading buildings, there's tons of different plants you can do, there's all sorts of farming you can do, there's relationships you can do for both friends and marriages. I mean, it's just a slew of good stuff, and if you haven't checked out the game, I highly suggest you do. There's been a couple people who bought the game on my suggestion, and I'm seeing them rack up like 100+ hours into it. It's addicting, and it's fun. Visions of Mana returned. The Mana series returned with Visions of Mana, and I have to say, this is another one of those games that is just absolutely stunning that came out this year. I'm very excited. I haven't quite beat this one yet. I haven't had the time, but I've been going through and playing it casually here and there, a couple hours, a little bit at a time, and I haven't really played a Mana game since Secret of Mana on the Super Nintendo. I mean, I've dabbled in them here and there, but I've never really got into one, and this was definitely the game to come back to the series with for me. I personally thought it was absolutely great. It's a little simplistic, but it works in favors for it, and there's a lot of really great characters. The worlds are bright and vibrant, and they're really fun to look at. It runs really smooth on the computer, and it also runs well on the Steam Deck, which I think is just a really great addition to everything that the game offers. It is an action RPG, and it's got, like I said, some good mechanics, decent leveling systems, a lot of neat powers, and fun different ways to maneuver around the world. It's just a great little journey. It feels like it harkens back to those old days. Once again, I absolutely loved it. On the visual novel side of things, I played Konosuba Love for These Clothes. If you don't know Konosuba, it's ecchi, right? It's a little perverted, it's a little silly, and this game is about a little side story that takes place off the side of the actual main show, and it's got all the great stuff that you'd like about Konosuba, and this one really kind of felt like a love letter to the fans of the anime series, and it carried the vibe, it carried the characters. The story was just, it was serviceable to get you to the next point, but it was fun, and you got to get yourself in different situations with each of the different characters and have some really fun and great memorable times as you went through it. It wasn't too long of a game, but it was a really fun game, and I have to give them kudos for this. They've really kind of brought me back into visual novels again this year, and this has been one of the highlights for me. If you're a fan of Konosuba especially, you're gonna like this game. We're kind of jumping into a sadder topic, but this year we got some really horrible news in the anime world, and that was the passing of Akira Toriyama, most notable for the Dragon Ball series, as well as many other things like, the Dragon Quest characters and a lot of other really great stuff. He was a really massive, massive force in the anime world, but one thing that we did get from him was we got the game version of Sandland before the year was over. and it was great. I think this is actually a title that was slept on a little bit more than it should have been. It has a really cool little base building simulation system built into it. The characters are really fun. The world is really interesting, and you get a bunch of different kind of mechanical creatures that you get to use to maneuver around ruins and this very dark and dystopian world, short of water, as it's called. The game did have a really great midpoint that I think most people didn't play to, and after that, the game really accelerates itself and moves into a whole another thing that is just tons and tons of fun. It was really well put together. It was a really fun kind of adventure, lighthearted story with people, unlikely characters becoming friends, and it was just, it was a really great, memorable game, another kind of action RPG with the building elements, like I said, and it has incredible artwork, a fantastic style. It's memorable, and it's fun, and, it might be a little slow at times, and it's a little simple at times. It's not really an overly complex game, but I don't want to knock it for that. In fact, I don't knock it for that. I think there's a beauty in it, and I absolutely loved it. It was a great game, and I'm really glad to have played it this year. Going back in the very heavy story side, I played Until Then, which is kind of like a visual novel, sort of. There's a lot of interaction in it, and it has probably one of the best stories out of everything that I've played this year. We had some really huge contenders with the story realm, but this one told me a story that was really interesting, and I learned a lot about Filipino culture that I had no idea about before. It was very interesting and charming at times. A real character really was the main character, and it was really interesting just kind of exploring and learning and seeing this stuff, but there's also some psychological crazy stuff that goes on in the background as well. It was really fun. There's a little bit of love, there's a little bit of heartache, and there's quite a bit of adventure and a ton of learning to have all around. Until Then, if you have not played that, it's another one. I suggest everything on this list, but this one's really great, especially if you're a big story fan, because it tells a story like none other. One of the most shocking games that was released this year was Farmagia, and it's not shocking because it's the greatest game ever or that it was amazing, but the fact that it was addicting. It was so addicting. I think when I got Farmagia, I couldn't do anything else. It's like it shut down everything else in my life outside of work. I worked, I came home, and I played Farmagia. The art style is done by the same person who does Fairy Tail. Everything just looks really beautiful and another bright, vibrant anime game. Characters were a little thin and the story was a little tropey, but it all kind of plays to its own elements and everything flows really well. There's a lot of addicting systems that have to do with growing your monsters. I originally thought it was going to be kind of a farming game, but it was much more kind of a roguelike dungeon exploration kind of a game. It was really interesting, and in a lot of ways it's kind of easy and it's kind of simple, but it's just fun. It's just fun. And is that not what games are about? Is that not one of the best things about games, is just fun and entertainment? Because that's what this game gave me, and it gave it to me in spades. The voice acting was also pretty good. The music was very serviceable. And I have a very long review on it, so if you check out the page, I talk about a ton of different things in a ton of depth. But yeah, it's another fun game. If you like addicting, simple, bright anime games, check this one out. Maid Cafe on Electric Street was a game that I was really excited for. I was following it before it came out, and this one was kind of special to me because this year we went to Osaka, Japan for our yearly Japan trip, and while we were there, we went to a place called Nipponbachi, or Denden Town, which is kind of the Akihabara in Osaka. It's got tons of maids. We saw maids everywhere, in fact. And this game, Maid Cafe on Electric Street, is set in that exact location. And it was kind of cool to see it in the form of a game and kind of go through this management system with a really cute story. It starts off wonderful with your main character quitting their rough Japanese job. And if you know what it's like to work in Japanese corporate places, you can definitely see how it would grind somebody to just want to quit and give it all up. They don't really know what to do from that point, and they end up meeting a woman who is running a failing maid cafe, and there the story begins and continues through with a ton of fun. It's got a lot of really great kind of love story, if you want to call it, friendship, camaraderie building themes to it, and overall it's just a really fun game. I keep saying that about all these games, but that's why they're on this list. They're fun games in 2024 that are all anime based. The newest one I just did a review for is Tokyo Clanpool, a DRPG, a dungeon RPG, crawling around through the dungeons. Think of Train Odyssey or Persona Q. You know, there's a lot of different types of these games, and there's a lot out there. I don't think they get talked about that much, but Tokyo Clanpool was one I was really excited to get a review key for. It's got really fun graphics, and while it's a little controversial because of the characters' ages and some mechanics that were in the original version of the game, I do think this one is just overall a really great time if you like dungeon crawlers. It's a little on the easy side, as you guys see in a lot of the gameplay. I'm sitting there shredding the enemies down in one hit, but that doesn't really take away from the fun. The exploration is really great, and it gets a little challenging, especially as you continue down through the labyrinth. Things get more and more complicated, and you just keep getting more and more features and skills and things to learn and enemy variety. It's got a lot to it. There's a big crafting system that you kind of have, like, I don't know if you want to call them Pokemon. They call them Gadgeta. They're beings that increase the power of your party members. There's a ton of item management and Gadgeta management, and there's tons of side quests. I mean, this game really has a lot. It's not the most robust dungeon crawler, and it's not the most complicated or the most unique, but it does everything really well, and this is another one of those games this year that the pacing was just so good, it was hard for me to quit. Last on the list is Metaphor ReFantazio, which, crazily enough, I still haven't beat. I just haven't had a lot of time this year, but I've gotten about 50 hours into it so far, and I'm just really loving it. This is another one by Atlas. This was something that we'd been waiting for so long, and I think a lot of people are really glad that they got it and had an absolutely wonderful time with this game. Think about Persona 5 Royal, but instead of having kids in a school, you have more adults in a fantasy setting, and I actually think that they did everything really well in this game, adopting some of the mechanics that we've seen before. Some of it kind of does feel like it harkens the Persona 5 vibes back at you without being Persona 5, but the game really originally stands on its own in a lot of ways. Characters are wonderful, the story's good, has really good twists and turns. The environment and just the world building is outstanding. It's so cool traveling around this world, and you get to do so on this really cool and super unique kind of big ship that you go on. And yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. It's got the social link kind of stuff to it and a little bit of upgrades that go with that. It has a ton of different kind of classes, if you want to call them that. And it's just a ton of fun. There's a lot of grinding and a lot of exploring and just a lot of fun adventuring to do. The music is excellent. I literally love the music. There's really very little to complain about with this game, I think. It runs on the Steam Deck really well. It looks really cool. It's tons of fun. It will keep you engaged, and there's plenty of hours to just mash into this game. Definitely Atlas has a massive hit, and I hope to see more of this kind of stuff in the future. So that was everything. That was the wrap up. Obviously, it wasn't every single game I played or every single game that did come out during this year, but these are the ones that I really wanted to talk about because I think they were the most memorable to me. They were the ones that engaged me the most, I had the most fun with, and the ones that I haven't finished yet, I'm really excited to just dive back into it. Curious about your thoughts, though. What did you think about this year? Was 2024 as awesome for you as it was for me, or did you kind of think it was lackluster? Are you looking forward to things in 2025 more? I'd really love to know. I'm genuinely, I would love to know. So let me know in the comments down below. If you like this content, hit the thumbs up. If you don't, hit the thumbs down so that I know. And if you feel like it, subscribe to Yokoso Otaku for more anime news, reviews, gaming, and more. I'll catch you guys on the next one.